Welcome to the Faith Talks Wood podcast. I'm Will from Fly Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're a podcast that talks about everything from Jesus to joinery, and we enjoy talking about all of it. So Tom, my wife and I had to make a hard decision. We have two dogs, a German Shepherd and a Golden Retriever. Our Golden is 12 years old, and our German is 6 years old, and she's still super high energy. Well, with having two kids, and I work a lot, and my wife stays home with the kids, we just haven't had the time that we feel is proper to give both dogs the love that they deserve, and the energy to play with them and do all the stuff that they need. And so we made the hard decision to rehome our German Shepherd. We love her. She's a great dog, but she still just requires a lot. She's a work dog, man. She will run until she passes out, and she loves to play. And we just don't have the time and energy to do that as much as we used to. And so, it's been kind of an emotional night for my wife and I, just, talking about it, and didn't take long. I reached out to a couple people, and right away somebody was like, yeah, we'll take her. And so, kind of a hard day today for that. Kind of just came with the realization. My wife gave the dogs a bath because it was so nice out, and she just kind of had the realization, like, we don't have the time, to keep up with both of them. And so, yeah, it's hard. It's kind of like, they're not kids, but it's kind of like that sentiment. It's, we have the dogs, and they're great dogs, and they're both good guard dogs and good around the kids and stuff. I just feel bad because we could tell that she's not getting the running she needs. And it's been kind of a tough day on that aspect. But aside from that, I spent most of the day outside cutting some trees down after church, and just enjoying the beautiful weather here in northwestern Pennsylvania. So everybody is flocking here because we are in the path of totality for the eclipse. And like, we're in the center line. It like goes right through us. And so they're expecting Erie, PA to have like an influx of, they're estimating anywhere between 200,000 and 300,000 people of a town of 100,000. So it's going to be kind of a crazy day tomorrow. So my whole company has said, nope, everybody works from home tomorrow. So, and then they're shutting the doors at 1. So I get a half day, and I'll be outside doing stuff, and then I'll put glasses on, look up at the thing, and say, oh, cool. And then I'll get back to work because there's stuff to do. But Tom, how's your day been? How's your weekend been?
Oh, it's been good, man. I had a crazy busy week, and as you know from the pictures I sent you, I finally got my CNC going. And I last week, I've had my CNC for a while, and it's been sitting out there in the shop, but I didn't have any work for it to make money, and so it's always kind of I shouldn't say it's I looked at it as a hobby piece. But, I bought it with the intentions of learning it and then turning it into a moneymaker. But it's always like, okay, I got work to do on the farm. I got signs to go install. I got stuff to do for the wife. And I pushed off another day. Next weekend, I'll learn that software next weekend. And it just kept getting pushed off. Well, I finally sold a job that I could have done it by hand. But I was like, it would be much better if I got the CNC going. And so last weekend, I did nothing for like 3 days, was just spent watching tutorials and learning the Vectrit software. And so this week I have played on the CNC, made a sign that was a combination of the CNC and my scroll saw work. And it was a very interesting project because I counted up all the tools I used, because I started with rough sawn lumber, and used the joiner, used the planer, table saw, miter saw, CNC, scroll saw. And it was just a really fun project getting to do so many different things all. And my customer was so ecstatic, like she couldn't stop drooling over the sign. So,
I have a question about that sign. So you sent me a picture of it. Is it you painted it, right?
yep,
So it's got color to it. What
Yep.
kind of paint do you use? Because it was an outdoor sign, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was like outside of the shop.
yep,
Just
exterior paint.
really, yeah, just normal paint. Just yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
So that was exterior bare semi-gloss, and I'm a Benjamin Moore person, but the customer had already painted their building, had the color swatches, and so that's bare. And I must say, I've not used bare paint in probably 20 years. I used to work at a Home Depot, and it used to be garbage. I hated that paint, but it's really actually a top-rated paint now. And but I love Benjamin Moore because it covers well and it lasts forever. It's also expensive, but I was quite impressed with the bare paint this time. So, but yeah, they gave me the color swatches. I went to Home Depot, bought the bare exterior, premium semi-gloss, and it covered really well. It came out looking fantastic. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, it's what we learned, and this is the third house that we've owned, and we've remodeled both the ones before it, is you don't buy cheap paint. Now, I knew that because my dad owned a painting business, and so always buy good paint. And he was always a Sherwin-Williams guy, just because that's the kind of the paint place, right? And so Promar 200 is
yep.
usually what we would buy, and it covers well. You do two coats if you really need to, if it's and so we learned that because the first time we tried painting something, we bought some cheap paint from Home Depot, and I called my dad and I said, "Dad, why is this paint not covering?" He said, "What paint is it?" I said, "Oh, it's some. It wasn't even bare. It's
Glidden.
Yeah, something like that." He's like, "Well, you dummy, you can't buy cheap paint. You got to buy good paint." He said, "Buy good paint, a good brush, and a good roller. Don't go cheap on any of it." And so,
but the thing is every brand, Sherwin-Williams included, Sherwin-Williams has their premium grade, but then they got their contractor grade too that they'll sell for, I call it watercolor, but all of them have it, and don't buy contractor grade paint unless the only place that stuff works is if you are an apartment complex. Every single apartment is painted off white, and you're spraying it every 6 months after somebody new, moves out or somebody new moves in. Other than that, if it's your own personal home, unless you're planning on repainting the room every 6 months, man, spend the money, the little extra, and get the good stuff because it lasts. Especially if you got kids and you need to wash the walls, man.
Yep, absolutely. Well, before we get into our guest, really excited about this week's guest. Just want to tell everybody, thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate all the support that we get. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do so on patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. Everything from $5 a month all the way up to whatever you want to pay a month. We really appreciate all the people that support us over there. And then also give us a 5-star review on Apple, goes a long way. And we appreciate the prayers because we see this as a ministry and just sharing people's testimonies. So really appreciate everybody that listens to the podcast. And if you have any questions, theological or woodworking, whatever it is, questions at faithtalkswood.com, and we'll bring those questions on the podcast and talk about them. So, Tom, I'm gonna let you introduce the guest for this week. I'm excited to talk to him and hear about his life journey.
Yeah, man. So a while back, I don't even remember how I stumbled across Chris, but I stumbled across his Instagram page, and his reels were just funny. And then I saw that he was a devout Christian, and after enjoying his content, I reached out to him and said, "Man, we got to get you on the podcast." And then ironically, we got to meet him at Workbench Con. And the one thing I'll say is, in person, he is very tall. I thought that it was a short guy like me on all his videos, but dude could be an NBA basketball player. But without further ado, Chris Duncan from Duncwoods on Instagram. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
I'm excited to be here. Happy
So
to be here.
how tall are you, Chris?
On a good day, 6'4".
Okay.
On a good day. My wife swears I'm 6'3", but my mom says I'm 6'4", so I'm in
There
between.
you go. That's the official.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. When I heard you guys have a podcast with woodworking believers, man, why would I say no to that? Of course I'm going to come on. That's awesome.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you live out in California, but and we can hear about the kids in the background, but tell us about you and your family and what you do for a living and all.
Can you hear them? Are they that loud? So yeah, I've been born and raised California. Been married for going on 9 years now. I have 2 kids. One is 2, she's crazy, and the other one's 5, and he's crazy. So I got 2 crazy kids and 1 crazy wife. Don't feel like I said that. But yeah, born and raised here. I'm in the southern area, closer to the mountains, where I get to enjoy looking at the snow, but not driving in it. So we got pretty good views here. But I've been woodworking for about 4 years now, and it has been my side hustle. It turned into a side hustle probably about 2 years ago, because I just started sharing, made an Instagram, and I started sharing some of the stuff that I was building. And then now I'm here. Just happened so quickly. And now everyone wants what I build. And the reason why I started it was because the only reason why I started was because people from YouTube were posting about things and teaching me for free. So why would I, do something and not pass that on? If people are teaching me for free, I'm gonna teach others for free. I'm gonna just keep the love going. So I started doing that, and a lot of people just jumped on. And of course, I put some of my comedy in there, and I like messing around a little bit. Some of my audios caught on, and people started using my audios, and some videos went viral, and then here I am today.
I'll be.
But yeah. But I came to Jesus in 2015, so almost 10 years ago. It's a funny story. I think a lot of people in their walk were introduced to Jesus as a kid. You were and I air quote this, you were in a Christian household. So it was just me and my mom. She forced me to go to church, which I'm thankful for. But I was just there to listen and check off a box. Did that for a long time. I even went to Christian school, a private Christian school, from elementary to all the way to 7th grade. So after 7th grade, I tried to go to church with my mom every once in a while. Went off, did my own thing, was a crazy kid, all the way into my 20s. And then I met my future wife. And she wasn't a believer when I met her either. But she started to go to a local church when we were dating. And I just went a few times just to check off the box and say that I went with her because she asked me to go. But it was one year and the other. It was just another class from back in my day in elementary and middle school. So it came to a point where me and my wife were, I think, 2 years into dating, or maybe a year into dating. And she said, if you're not going to, desire to come, then I don't want you to come. And maybe we shouldn't be dating because my future husband is out there somewhere else. And that just blew my mind. Because to me, in that point of time, I looked at her and I said, you're really going to believe in something invisible in this old book. Choose that over me. And that's just my young mind. I laugh at that now. But that was my young mind thinking, wow, you're just going to do that? We've been together for, what was a year? You're just going to throw it away over this? And so she asked me and she said, hey, I'm starting to believe in this, and I'm I gave my heart to Jesus, and if you're not willing to do this, then I'm out. She basically gave me the ultimatum. And then I thought about it, and I chose to go with her again. And with this time, I went with an open heart. And I wasn't saved right away. It took me a long time. It took me about a year to go with her. And TMI, beforehand, we were having premarital sex. We were doing all the above, and she cut that off too. So that was another step in faith that she did that would just open up my eyes and just what is going on here. As someone in their young 20s, what's going on here? So started going to church, and again, it took me about a year or so, and then I really started to listen, started to put things into practice. No, I didn't say, yes, I believe in Jesus, but I was actually hearing. My heart was open. And then finally, in 2015, that's when I said, I'm done. I no longer want to think that I have this, because I don't have this. It's Jesus that has this. He knows everything. I don't know a thing. So, Jesus, rewrite my mind. I want to know exactly what you know. I want to be all about you. I don't want to be about myself. I don't want to be about the person next to me. I just want to be about you. So I just gave it all up that day. And then we ended up getting married 3 months after that. Yeah. So we got engaged a month after that, and then got married on our 3-year anniversary. So it's been a journey since then, but I'll stop there because I've been talking the last 15 minutes.
So what do you remember? What was the pivotal point of you feeling that God is real and Jesus is who the Bible says he is? And what was that like? Was it a sermon? Was it just a continuation of work in your heart? And finally it was just what did that look like?
It was the second half. So the continuation, again, I was introduced to God in the very beginning of my life, but again, it was just a classroom. It was a check the box activity. It was a grade, so it was sermon after sermon that was just digging into me. And on top of that, it was the actions of my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife now, her just outward faith and denial of the flesh when it comes to me and the things that she was into as well. So it was a combination of both through that period of time. And boy, am I so thankful for that.
I must say, I mean, for her to, in the midst of dating, cut you off and say, "Hey, this is how my life is now." Right? 2 Corinthians 5:17. Those in Christ are a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. And so for her to walk by faith in that, and not to get too not vulgar, but when you have a relationship like that with somebody, that's intimate and that's very close. And so to just say, okay, I'm done until we get married is a huge thing. And it shows her dedication to the word and to what it is and to who God is. And so, man, that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah, it was a big step in her walk. It was something that just, slapped me in the face, put a reality to it. Someone that believes in Jesus is actually doing it, not just saying it. So that was huge for me.
That is something you don't see in the world enough. Is somebody that's willing to literally be the light in the darkness and say, this is not just with my words what I believe, but watch what I do. And man, that and to be able to say, hey, I care about you, Chris. I love you, but I'm willing to give you up for Jesus. I'm giving it all up. And I'm sold out for my relationship with Christ. Man, that is powerful stuff, brother. Man, you got a winner there that it's just so rare, man. You're a blessed man.
Yeah, I mean, I could come here with a story where I almost died and I was saved and I started to believe, but it was the actions of my girlfriend at the time that just threw me for a loop. So I'm really thankful for her.
And what's interesting is we have a lot of people on the podcast, and we hear testimonies all across the spectrum. And we've had guys on here that hardcore drugs, going down bad paths, and then God slapped in the face in a sense, Paul on the road to Damascus kind of thing. And then we've had people on here that are I grew up in church. I've always been in church. It's always been my life. And, we've had people that we've, asked to come on the podcast and they'll say, I don't really have a good testimony. And you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. There's somebody that's listening that has been in a similar situation to you, and your testimony could be inspiring to help plant a seed to lead them into a relationship with Jesus. And so no matter what your testimony is, it's powerful. And with yours, I mean, not only is it a testimony of how you got to know Jesus, but it's a testimony of who your wife is and how she was sold out and willing to give everything up for it. And knowing that's who you are partnered with for life now is, that's encouraging.
Yeah. And I don't know the stats, but I know that there's a lot more women in church than men. A lot more women, our moms take their kids to church more than dads. So I've met a few people where their wife started going to church, and that's that act of faith and that obedience to God was a reflection of God, and that started that questioning, started that what's going on? Why is she changing? Why is she making these decisions? So I give women a lot of credit. They are strong. I can't thank my wife enough for just choosing God.
Right. It actually says right in the Bible that if you're with an unbeliever, stay with them as long as it's not abusive. Right. To give the hope and show them the light. And so, yeah, man, that's good stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's been a journey. Again, I'm going on 10 years. We stayed at that church for another 3 or 4 years. Amazing church. It was a very large church. So we had some community here and there, but it wasn't until recently a new church that started from the same church that I was at. A pastor went off and started a church near the community that we just moved into. So we got to meet him at our previous church, and he said, yeah, come through. This is, we're starting in the middle of the pandemic. God called us out here to the city, and I know that you just moved out there, so let's come stop by. So we've been there since day one. I've been on the side of ministry where I've got to see a church grow. I've been there since day one to help them set up the chairs. We're in a school, so we rent out a school. Very small church. It's way different from a large church, right? You get to know everybody. You hear everybody's testimony. We do this thing at church where we do 2 worship songs, and then we do fellowship, and then we do another 2 worship songs. So you have to, it's not you come early to chat it up or you stay later to chat it up. No, we're chatting during church. So that's been a huge part of our church and how fellowship has been. And it's been just so close and intimate. It's so different from a larger church. So again, we've been there. We just celebrated 3 years. I'm an elder now there. I started as a deacon. So it's 4 of us as elders. One's the main pastor. And we just love serving our community. It's right off the freeway where everybody can see it. And I always tell my pastor, I say, hey, we're in a perfect spot. I don't care about the school. One day this school is going to move out and we're going to take over this building. We're going to put a huge sign where they know that this is a local church they can go to. So we have a great opportunity here with older folks, younger folks. There's a newer community coming in. It's a blend of everybody. So just blessed I'm blessed about that timing of just moving here, starting fresh with a new church. It's been growing my faith like crazy.
That's phenomenal. The church I attended in North Carolina, when we first started attending there, we literally operated out of a trailer. We rented a facility, which was an auditorium at the local university. And so, and then we rented, some classrooms in another building that was right next to it. So every week we'd back the trailer up, and me and my daughter, we would help set up chairs, and, everybody had their own part of setting up, but we did the same exact thing where we sang some songs and then we would chit chat, hey, shake the hand of somebody beside you. But I actually really enjoyed that time when we were a setup church, because the relationships we got to make with the people that came early, setting up chairs and setting up all the music instruments and everything. And then we stayed afterwards and broke everything down. Man, I'm still friends with some of those people now. And it was just really a special time. Then eventually the college had to remodel the auditorium, and we were forced to go find a permanent home somewhere else. But I really enjoyed those times of setting up and breaking down church each week, because it's about the people. It's not about the building.
100%. It doesn't matter if you rent, own, buy. And again, same here. The aspect of setting it up and tearing it down, it also creates some sort of ownership as well. You're like, yeah, this is where we're going to fellowship. This is where we're going to worship God. And we're putting in our muscle to get this done and to clean it back up and do it again the next Sunday. It's just awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The church in Tennessee we went to was a little over 8,000 a weekend. So big, massive mega church. But they did it in a way that it didn't feel like that big. It's hard to explain. Now we're part of a church that's like 100 people, small country church, but there's young people there, lots of young families and stuff. And, seeing the differences in the way things are done. But there's actually a church local to us that sets up in a school, very similar. They set up in the school gym and set up chairs and stage and music and all, the sound equipment, everything, and tear it right back down afterwards. And so I know that builds community, and there's nothing like serving amongst and with one another that grows your relationship and your accountability in your community. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's so a lot of men joined the church, and about a year in, just God put on my heart to take care of the men and just come together as men. So I started running the men's ministry. We didn't even have a men's ministry in the beginning, but just God put on my heart to do that. And we have grown so tight. It feels like a true brotherhood. We're sharpening each other. We're all different ages, different races. It's just been, I can't explain it. It's just been such a blessing to have this. It just feels like what church is supposed to be.
What denomination are you guys?
So we're Baptists.
Okay.
We're part of the Baptist, but it's a church launch, so we're part of another launch as well. So it's a mix, but we can call ourselves Baptists.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
I'm the church we attend now is Church of Christ, which is honestly it's Baptist with a few different theological things, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's interesting to see how different churches are doing things and how similar some things are and how some things in your community will work, but here they wouldn't work or vice versa. So it's pretty cool to see that.
I think all churches have their purpose, right? The church that I started with was a big evangelical church where they're all about reach, and they reached me. So, churches God put it on that pastor's heart to be more an evangelical church for outreach. My pastor now is more like, hey, let's sharpen each other up so that we can go out and be Jesus. And while we're doing that, obviously we're going to become more like Jesus. So it's more of like a serving church than more of a reach out, even though that's part of the reach, but it's more of like a serving church.
Yeah. Well, how can you reach out if you as a congregation aren't sharp, right? Aren't built up, and what the church that we're part of now and the church in Tennessee are expository teaching churches. So we only teach through whole books of the Bible. And so Book of John, and you break it down verse by verse, line by line, and it challenges you. And, but nonetheless, when it's a Bible believing church, and you go through the word, you're going to encourage and challenge, and it's going to be something that's going to be edifying. And then you get in those communities like you're in, and then when you're in your workplace, in your place outside of church, you're the light, and then you have a reason for the hope that you have, and then you can share that. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, and something about that too I've been thinking about lately is, when you're out in the workforce, like you just mentioned, from the evangelical's perspective, it's all about, make God known, right? Say something, speak up, share your testimony. I've been more on like, be the Jesus, be the hands and the feet. Basically be him without mentioning his name. So not saying anything against mentioning his name, but just create that curiosity. Why is this guy not cursing? Why is this guy always happy? When we're gossiping, why does he never jump in? So those things that Jesus is always about the long game. It's a long game. It's not a, here, I'm gonna smack you, Jesus, or hell. It's this is my fruit because of who I serve. Who's my Father in heaven? This is why. So it creates that curiosity. That's kind of my evangelical way of doing it.
Actions speak louder than words. I mean, you could, it's easy to say you love Jesus. It's another thing to go out and live your life in a way. Your wife now is a prime example of when y'all were dating. I mean, you saw her actions changing. Yes, she did verbally tell you, but her actions was what made you go, oh man, what's this going on here? And
exactly.
That's awesome, man. So tell us, how did you get into woodworking and how all that started?
So our first house, my wife wanted us to have a nice flower bed in the front. She wanted brick, and at the time I thought that was too expensive. I said, why don't we just, build a wooden one? And at that time, I've never touched a woodworking tool. I didn't have a father where he, took me to the garage and taught me things. So I had a friend at work who let me have one of his circular saws. So the wife agreed, just make a wooden one. Just be careful. Hopefully it looks nice. And I took the circular saw, got some wood from Home Depot, and created that, that flower box. And I was hooked. I was hooked ever since then. Started watching YouTube videos of, some of these now big YouTube folks, and how they did projects on YouTube. Got hooked on that. Then I started, to build more things for my wife with that little circular saw. I made a nice headboard. I'm like, I got to start posting this stuff. Maybe someone would like it. And so I started posting pictures back then. They didn't do reels back then. You did pictures on Instagram. So I started posting those, and started, each little project that somebody wanted, maybe a friend wanted a shelf or something, I would do it for them. And I would take that money and just buy another tool. So I started with a little, I don't know if Harbor Freight is out there. Is Harbor Freight out there? Is it nationwide? Okay, yeah. So I started with the Harbor Freight cable saw, nice little bench to work on. The garage was a complete mess. It was just a horrible place to be in. Dust everywhere. I started from the bottom, but no, man. Fun time, man. Fun time. My wife was my hardest, well, she still is my hardest critic. So, I would build something and she's like, are you really going to give that to somebody? Does somebody want that? So she really, she's my quality control.
Oh, that's funny, man. I would say I'm my biggest critic, and it's just the opposite with my wife. I build something, I point out every mistake in it, and my wife loves it. She's like, nobody's going to see that. I wouldn't have known if you didn't tell me. And so, you started off with the flower box. What do you like building the most now? What's your primary joy in the wood shop?
So the flower box started it all, but then I started to do a lot of shelving. A lot of people wanted shelves. I did one for our house. It was like a corner shelf. And a lot of people started saying, hey, I want a shelf here and there. Shelves are big. And I would do the 45 miter fold with the shelf. And that's part of my logo because I blew up on Instagram because everyone wanted to do shelves. And so I would teach them how to do it with the miter fold. And so my first viral video was me just sliding on a shelf. It was literally like a 4-second video and it hit 17 million. I'm like, what? All I was doing was sliding on a shelf. So I got more shelf orders, and more shelf orders. So I was just doing shelf after shelf, maybe for a good year, custom shelves, But now I'm starting to dabble more into like I did my first bed in full hardwood. I'm doing a lot of cabinets now. I'm doing, last year I did a lot of built-ins and stuff like that. But I want to get more into. I'm enjoying cabinetry. I'm enjoying that. I did some for the house, and I got a second vanity I'm working on now. So I'm leaning more towards that now. Yes, I'll do shelves here and there. I have a shelf order now that I need to take care of. That's my old love. But yeah, I want to get more into like the cabinetry and vanities and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen some of your built-ins and stuff. Really pretty work. So you said 17 million views. Is that on 17. Instagram or YouTube?
That was Instagram. I'll tell you a funny story. My son got in an accident at Lowe's. Something fell on his face and he was bleeding like crazy on his nose. So the next night he woke up with a bloody nose. Again, like he was bleeding like crazy. And I think it was about 2 a.m. at night. We called the ambulance because obviously he just had an injury. We don't know what's going on. So it ended up being, we were up to like 3:30 in the morning. And I had that reel in my drafts. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wake up and post it. I'm going to sleep in. So I'm just going to post it now at 3:30 in the morning. I wake up, that thing blew up. I woke up to millions of views and I was like, what just happened overnight? So I always link it to my son's injury. And that's just basically what started my Instagram game, was posting at 3:30 in the morning.
That is
Pacific
crazy.
Time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
Instagram has
videos hit after that.
Instagram has no rhyme or reason for stuff. My wife got a couple 100,000 views. My wife is a stained glass artist, so does like stained glass panels and different stuff. And she just did a quick like 10-second video of her grinding glass, and people like blew up. And then Tom's got a real funny story about a thing going viral. It's the goofiest thing ever, but on a woodworking channel.
Yeah, mine doesn't have no 17 million views. I don't. I'm on a 40-day fast from social media, so I don't know what it's at. But it's but it like 500,000 views. But it was me cleaning my smoker. I showed a trick for cleaning the smoker glass because it's a pain in the butt. I love smoking meat. I've got one of them vertical. In fact, I smoked a Boston butt today, man. That thing is to die for. Just fall off the bone. But yeah, it's like everything else is woodworking, and that thing is what got the most views. I'm like, oh well.
Yeah, to this day I don't understand it. I've had another couple videos hit, and I started to try to reenact that first 17 million. It's just teasing them. Hey, this is a shelf that I slid on, and they want to know how, so that they like it or share it. And I've tried to recreate that multiple times. Some of them hit. I had another one that hit 7 million. But Instagram is it's up and down. You never know.
That's crazy.
My funny story on that. So like 3 years ago, a buddy and I went to IWF in Atlanta, so International Woodworker Fair, right? Big, massive. And so SawStop has a whole it's like a city block, right? Whole thing there. And so we're there for the hot dog demonstration, and so we got there just in time. I had my phone out before him, and I got video of it. He's like, "Oh man, I didn't get video of it," so I airdropped him the video, and we both edited it. Same, basically same thing. his got 500,000, mine got 50,000.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Right. It's definitely strange.
How is
that's awesome.
IWFS?
So IWFS is the one in Nevada,
Vegas.
out in
Nevada,
out in Vegas.
right? Yeah.
And so it switches. So 1 year's IWF, 1 year's IWSF out there. IWF in Atlanta, it was awesome. I mean, it was just massive. I mean, you could walk for days and it's nothing but woodworking, but it's not like there are like Sawstop and like Grizzly and Felder and Oliver and those companies are there, but it's like the big guys. Like you put a sheet of plywood in this machine and it comes out as a cabinet, right? That kind of stuff. Like machinery that's the size of my house, right? There's a lot of that there, but that was so after going to Workbench Con was expensive. Tom and I won tickets to go. We still had to pay for plane, and pay for hotel and stuff. And so I don't know if I would pay for Workbench Con, but I would pay to go to IWF because IWF is like $50 for the week. It's a trade show.
The thing about IWF and AWF, the one in Vegas is even bigger than the one in Atlanta. It's awesome. You don't pay $50 for the ticket, dude. You could get
it's 30. I think it's like $30 or something.
Yeah, but you get free tickets from vendors. I have paid for one trade show in the last 25 years. Like if there's a vendor that you're interested in their product, reach out to them. They'll give you a code to get in. You get a ticket for free. If you're just some random guy, you're probably not. But man, I have gotten tickets for just about every trade show. That's why they're going there. They want you to come see their product in person. And to me, I like it, going and seeing all the tools in action, and it's more up my alley. But I like the one in Vegas. I've been to both of them, but it's same thing with the Sign and Graphics show. The Sign and Graphics show in Vegas is it's insane how big it is. But the venues out there are just phenomenal. But Vegas is probably driving distance for you, isn't it? What do you?
So I did go to the one last, I think it was July or something, in the AWFS.
Yep.
So I did that. And that was probably the best investment, to drive down there, get a hotel and get that and go there, because I came out with a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Apollo Paint Sprayers was there, and I got to meet them. They're in San Diego. So I partnered up with them. They gave me a $2,500 paint gun, HVLP. I worked with a couple other companies. They gave me stuff. It's so huge, and it's awesome to meet the people face to face.
Yep.
And I got to meet the marketer. She's the marketing manager of the whole thing. And she was new that year. So she wants to get more of people like us in there, because there's a lot of just, vendors and commercial workers and all that stuff that want to be there, but she wants more of an influence in there. So people like us to show off the product and meet these folks, because there's a benefit both ways, right? We're getting stuff, and we're promoting their stuff. And that's what she wants to bring more into AWFS. So I don't know if you guys met Tovi in Workbench, but Tovi is part of AWFS. And I told him when I was out there to come to Workbench in Atlanta. So he got to meet some more influence, to just get some ideas and stuff for the next AWFS, because they want to try to create a program for influencers to come in and meet them before the actual show. So we get our chance to talk to different vendors and companies. So they're trying to build a system around that right now. So I'm pretty excited about that coming up. And also, and also the guy Tovi that was there at Workbench, he invited me, and I just did it this weekend. He invited me to judge the California State High School woodworking competition. So I got to do that this weekend and see these kids just going at it. They were building a small vanity, and I got to be a judge. I was judging on like workstation cleanliness, safety, but I got to talk to these kids, and I'm like, man, I wish I did this in high school. Like they're like, yeah, why did you do it? And I'm like, I thought these were just nerds and doing hand saws and stuff like that. You guys are out here working machinery. Like it's awesome. But yeah, a lot of connections through that. It's been amazing.
Man, I'll definitely be at AWFS next year. I'm not as close as you. It's about an 8-hour drive from where I live to Vegas, but my wife's from Las Vegas. So we got friends and family there.
So let me get your thoughts on this, Chris. Both of our first year to work. Is that your first year Workbench Con or?
First year. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how I feel about it. We didn't pay for the ticket. Tom and I did a Maker Collab challenge and we won. And so that's
how you have the tickets.
Yeah. So we got the tickets. And so, my whole take from it is one, it's a big party scene. I don't drink, I don't party. And so that side of it. Now I did get to meet some really good guys, a lot of Christian dudes there. I got some, just really good connections in that sense. And got to meet, all the guys that we watch on YouTube are just dudes. Like Bourbon Moth, Jason is just the same as he is in his video. He's just a guy. Also much taller than I thought he was. I thought he was a short guy. I'm 6'2". He's just about as tall as I am. And so, but I don't know how I feel about it. So like I did classes and I didn't really feel like I got anything. It was all kind of mediocre, kind of like, this is stuff that I know. And then, I wasn't impressed with the breakfast, man. I want some meat and potatoes and they gave me like floofy.
Some fruit.
Right, some fruit and stuff. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on being your first year there? Obviously, it was cool getting to see all the guys I've been watching for years and meet them. I talked to Cam from Blacktails for like 30 minutes one day, just him and I, and he's a super guy, right? So that was cool, but that doesn't get me anything. So, what was your thoughts?
So last year I had FOMO. So I saw all of the people that I follow out there at Workbench in Atlanta having fun. I saw their stories. So I had, I didn't want to miss out this year. So I ended up paying to come out there. And my wife is the one that said, hey, just do it. Because I travel a lot for work. So I had free flight tickets. I just used my points to go out there. So that helped as well. But I'll sum it up like this. The reason why I wanted to go, a couple of reasons. I wanted to meet people face to face. I thought that was awesome because this woodworking community is huge. I didn't realize how huge it was. I talked to so many people. I mean, we connected there, right?
Yep.
We didn't even know we were going to connect there, and we connected there. So that part I really like. I really like that part. The second part was part of the reason why I wanted to go is because I want to work more on my YouTube side. I know that I can make a passive income there. My wife is a stay-at-home, so she can teach the kids. I don't want to put my kids in the California system. So any extra money helps. Any extra money helps keep the wife home and the kids home. So that was the two things I wanted to do: is meet people and learn more about YouTube. And I thought the classes that I chose, because obviously they offer a whole bunch of classes. The classes I chose the first day were amazing. So I learned about how AI is basically changing the game. One quote from the lady that was teaching it said, "It's not AI that's going to take away your job. It's the person who knows how to work it." So that kind of encouraged me to kind of look at AI because I was really discouraged about AI. I'm like, this is cheating. People are just basically downloading stuff from AI, but you can use it to your advantage. Just if you want to make graphics, if you want to look at stats, it pulls all that stuff for you. But I learned a lot in that class. I learned a lot in just kind of how to run YouTube in general and make money off of it. But that last day, I was tired. And I was in a class, another class where they were teaching about AI and YouTube. And a lot of the big YouTube guys are in there. And again, it was nice to meet them face to face, but that class felt just so like I was back in high school and I was the little kid, and these were the the popular kids, and they were just joking around. And I'm really here to learn. I want to learn, and I don't want to feel like I was back in high school and I wasn't the cool kid. So I kind of got discouraged at the back end, and I was like, babe, I just want to come home. Like, I didn't even go to the last class. I just went back up to the hotel just to relax. I was like, what am I doing here? I started to second guess why I was there. But after the flight home, I realized I did gain a lot. I gained a lot of knowledge, and I need to apply it to my YouTube, obviously. But will I go again? Probably not.
So
if it was free,
my take, right.
Yeah,
my take.
Yeah.
So I was in the AI class you're talking about. I'm the guy that asked them about quantum computing because
okay.
I'm the guy that got her all uncomfortable because, I'm in IT. So, we're going to go down a rabbit hole here real quick, but AI is amazing. It's not actually AI, right? It's generative internet scraping text. Anyways, but quantum computing is coming around the corner. And basically what that is, that's going to take the power that they can compute now and 1,000x it, right? Oof. And so what's going to happen is things that we take for granted now are going to become almost scary. So for instance, like you have a computer, your computer has an encrypted hard drive. It's 256-bit encryption. It's very, 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 very hard to break that encryption. With a quantum computer, it would do it in a matter of a blink of an eye. With AI, and so from a security, right? I'm in a security standpoint. I'm not too certain about the future. My only hope is that people will realize that AI is taking away from a human interaction, and that it'll be revolted by us. But to your point on the Workbench Con, I was in that class. On my left, I was sitting right next to John Malecki. And then on my right, I was sitting right next to, I think it was Brad from Fix This, Build That. Like 3 million plus subs on either side of me, right? It was combined. Yeah. And they're both just guys. I get that. Like, I just don't know. I went there and the real interactions come at night, but I'm not one of loud music and drinking alcohol. And so like, I wasn't like, but I did find a group of Christian guys and we would stand outside the thing and talk about
right in the front,
talk about the gifts of the Spirit and talks about like all this kind of stuff. Right. And like, that was fun for me. And the only reason I would go back would be to see those guys again. But I can't justify out of pocket being $2,000, $2,500 to go. Like, that's just not something that I can justify. But something like IWF or AWFS, I may look at going next year and then just meeting Tom out there and hanging out in Vegas. I've never been to Vegas. I don't really care to go, but that would be a cool,
Honestly,
well, it's during the hottest time of the summer too. So
yeah, the convention center's air conditioned. Honestly, to me, Workbench Con was just like Las Vegas. Like, the things I want to see are during the daytime. The things that I'm not into, all the crap, and I hate to say it, is in the dark. Prostitutes don't work out in the light. People don't, I'm not saying nobody gets drunk, but people don't get drunk and do drugs in the middle of the day. All that stuff is in the night at dark time. It's ironic that that's the way nightlife and all that is. But I've felt the same exact way about the classes and about the people. I loved meeting you, and I love meeting Nolan and all the other people. But if it weren't for the people that I met there, I would, and we had free tickets, but the cost of the airfare and that hotel, I thought that hotel
can't justify that.
That was way overpriced in my opinion. But that's why I'm not sure if you heard the last couple episodes. We're wanting to put together a faith-based woodworking retreat, like a 4-day weekend, and have it at like a camp. someplace where it is just crazy cost effective, and where we come there, we spend some time worshiping, spend some time learning, faith-based, and then we spend some time actually making something, getting our hands dirty. And I just, it's not going to be no 600 people like it was at Workbench Con, but kind of like you talked about with your church, and really spending some time with people and getting to know them. But yeah, so tell us.
That would be awesome.
I know you. So have you already started your YouTube channel, or is that something you're wanting to start?
So I started it a year and a half ago, but I was just posting my reels from Instagram. So I got all the short followers. So I posted all my shorts. I'm actually at 25,000 followers now on YouTube, with like 50 reels or shorts. I did post 3 long form videos. One I posted like 11 months ago. That just reached 10K, which is awesome. One I recently just posted about 4 or 5 months ago, got 3K. But I need to start posting more. I need to feed it those long form videos so that I can get monetized, because I'm close, but I'm right there, and I just need to put some more effort into it and be strategic about it, because I don't want to just throw content out there. I want it to be good, to where people will follow and learn from it and stuff like that. And me, I'll throw some funny stuff in there to keep them going as well. But yeah, I need to invest more time in that.
Gotcha.
But I actually got a deal with the company to do some shelves, a YouTube video, and they're going to pay me to do the YouTube video, which is awesome. So that's for sure coming down the line to do that. But I want to do some more cabinet builds on there, because a lot of people want to start doing their own cabinets at home just because it's expensive, right? So that's on the list to do as well.
Fantastic. I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel, but same thing. I don't want to do it and half do it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. And I just started the Instagram thing last year, and I look at my reels and I think they're garbage, because when I first started, I didn't even know how to record something. It's like, how do you hit the record button on the phone type thing? And but it's been fun, and for me, it's been about the connection with other people. And but I'm going to start a YouTube channel, but I'm the same way. I look at it. I would like to monetize it. I would so that help would take care of the family and all. But I look at it from the standpoint of I watch people's videos and I learn something. I want to in turn share for free. And that is the one thing that I did not like about Workbench Con, is because if you need anything from me, Duncan, all you got to do is call me. Call me if I can help you. And there's several of our listeners that have my phone number. They'll call me and ask me questions, and I'll call them and ask them questions. And that is what Jesus would do. Jesus wouldn't say, pay me to teach you. He would just teach you. And that's kind of how I feel it. It's like paying it forward type thing. Whereas at Workbench Con, I feel like there's a lot of people out there where it's like, pay me and I'll share my knowledge. I'm going to tell you one thing. If a person is on Instagram and then all of a sudden they switch and everything is, you got to be a subscriber, pay their $5 a month, I unfollow them. And I'm like, I'm not paying you $5 a month to be your friend. Like, that's not friendship. And I laugh at all of it, but I feel like that's where so many, like there was this one guy, and I'm not going to mention his name. He definitely was not a Christian, but we talked to him a couple of times. First thing he did was hand me a business card to where to follow his content. I was just like, and then he starts bragging about all the stuff. And I'm like, yeah, not my kind of person to follow. If you know what I mean.
Well, one of the things from Workbench Con that I found is that it's transactional for a lot of people.
That's true.
Like one of the things too that I think Tom and I recognized, a lot of guys are going to the Battery to go out to eat, right? Well, him and I went to go get pizza, I think ISO Tunes had the whole place shut down for all the big time content creators. And so us, piddly guys with 2,500 followers, we don't get any time to just hang out and chat with anybody because, so that side of it was kind of weird. At the conference itself, it was fine. There was a couple of times where I thought, yeah, okay, there's true colors, but most of the guys like John Malecki, he's as harsh and as wild as he is on YouTube. But he's only about an hour and a half from me. And so him and I had that connection. I'm like, yeah, I'm just right up the road from you. I told him where I live. He's like, oh yeah, you guys have that really good bar in the town. I'm like, oh boy, that's what we're known for, I guess. But yeah, I felt like some of it was transactional in that sense. And a lot of the vendors there, aside from Bearwoods and Surf Prep, man, they're just
them.
They're devout believers.
Can I tell you about Surf Prep?
Let's hear it.
Surf Prep so they're in Lake Elsinore. They're near me, and I know Heather very well. Or Heather very well. The time I went to AWFS, I got a free stand-in from UNITA. So they gave me free stuff, and I was supporting UNITA, which is the opposite of Surf Prep. But they the backstory about that. But I met Surf Prep at AWFS, and I was blown away of just how humble they were, willing to share knowledge, willing to talk to you. They weren't trying to buy you. They weren't trying to do anything. They were just, and it was obviously I was attracted for a reason because they're believers. I mean, I sat and talked to the owner. We went back to his Airbnb, and he gave me a book of knowledge of like, do you want to really do this? He offered me books about business and how to run a business and stuff like that. Literally just having a 30-minute conversation with little old me. So from that day, I said, look, guys, I have UNITA at home. I don't even want to use it anymore. That's how much I love you guys. Like, you guys are amazing. And so it's just been awesome. I went down there after Vegas. I went down there to Lake Elsinore to talk to them. And they gave me some stuff. And I'm like, you guys are family. And they're like, your family too. They gave my kids little Surf Prep shirts and stuff like that. When you find a believing group and they run a company, why wouldn't you want to go that direction?
Exactly. I honestly, I would like to just sell all my festival stuff and buy Surf Prep.
Yeah.
Like, it just because I was like, man, they were just so down to earth. The first time I talked to Hannah at Workbench Con, we were out in the alley and I was going over to take a class, and I didn't know she was with Surf Prep. And we were out there chatting and the thing. I was like, yeah, I'm getting ready to, I said, which one of these rooms is this class in? And we were kidding, I'm going to be in here. I was like, awesome, man. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one of the things. Then she told me she was with Surf Prep. I was like, oh, okay, well, I've been fine. And then she's like, oh, you're with Face to Off Foot. Yeah, I've been following you guys. We didn't know who each other was, but just like the most down-to-earth people. And same thing, like he said, the people over at Bearwoods. And you feel like when you had a conversation, it was like, I love you, whether you buy a Surf Prep sander or not. It you know what I mean? It's not
exactly
a transactional love. It was like an authentic, I
gotta tell you guys a funny story, and if they listen to this, I don't care. It's so I'm walking in Workbench Con, and the people at ISO Tunes, they kind of like grab me in. They're like, hey, check out our ear stuff or whatever, and they said, do you wear stuff in the shop? I said, yeah, I've got 3M Work Tunes I use in the shop. And they're like, oh, have you checked out these? Like their version of 3M Work Tunes. I said, funny story is I met you guys at IWF in Atlanta like 3 years ago, and I was going to buy some there, but I didn't want to take it back on the airplane. So I put it on my Christmas list for my wife to get. I says that unfortunately my wife did her research, and your guys has had so many bad reviews. She bought the 3M. I told the lady this at the booth, and she's like, she looked at me and she's like, but the funny part is that she knew and didn't even combat the fact. I said, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, my wife researched, and for Christmas I opened up 3M work tunes, and I was disappointed because I wanted ISO tunes. But let me tell you what, I love my 3M work tunes. I use them all the time. And she was just like,
what do you say to that?
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of a funny story about that. They tried to sell me. They wanted me to buy their stuff. And the last day they were given like buy it now, you get stuff. And then another funny one is X Fasten was giving away all their tape. They had that huge table of tape and they were giving it away. And like, they give you a box if you wanted it. And so I got some of the double-sided and some of the masking tape. Well, I know why they were giving it away. Their masking tape is garbage.
It is garbage. So I was going to paint the house, right? We were going to paint the living room. So I taped it the night before. That thing was already falling off. And I don't have dusty. It's not dusty. It's clean. But they're masking tape. Now, their double-sided tape, excellent. I love it.
Yeah.
But their masking tape is horrible.
I tried using it on a project soon after Workbench Con. I sent Tom a text. I was like, I know why they're giving this stuff away. I couldn't get it to rip. It was ripping down the center when I was trying to get the tape. So anyways, just funny.
The lesson from all of that is if 3M makes it, don't waste your time buying another company stuff. I'm a 3M certified graphics installer, and same exact thing, man. They make the best graphic film on the planet. There ain't even a close second place, but same thing with painter's tape. Dude, I don't buy nothing but 3M, and I love my 3M work tunes. I have beat them things to death on the farm. I have dropped them off the tractor and everywhere. They still work, but they just make good stuff. They do charge for it. But they make good stuff.
Yeah.
Fun. Well, Chris, what do you got going on in the shop right now? What's on the bench? What you got working on, and what's coming down the pipe?
So after I choke and die, so I do have again. I mentioned the YouTube video where I have a couple shelves I'm going to do. I'm going to show off some of these new brackets that this company has, which are excellent. I've already tested them, and then right now in the shop, I just was staining a vanity that I built out of hardwood. That's the one that I was talking about earlier. Can't wait to deliver that one. That one's going to the beach. That was the first ever project where the customer said, "Hey, I want your logo on it," like because it's custom made. And so I'm like, "Wow, awesome! Like, of course, yeah. Why not? Why wouldn't I? Why would I say no? That's awesome." And so she's gonna want some more stuff, which is cool too. But again, I'm working on something that brought me up in the game, the shelving, and then now I'm working on a vanity where it's stretching my skill. I've been working on it for like 2.5 months, but yeah, I think it's beautiful. I can't wait to show you guys. It's beautiful.
Very cool. It's fun when you do a new project that pushes your skills and puts you out of your comfort zone. It really is. Oh yeah,
and the stretch. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but when you're in the shop, don't you feel like you're somewhere else? You just. It reminds me of sports. So when I used to play basketball, I didn't think about my grades. I didn't think about stuff at home. I was thinking about what was happening on the court. But now that I'm doing woodworking now, and that's after my real job or after hanging out with the kids and the wife, it is just a space where I turn on some worship or I turn on a message, and I'm zoned out. It's me and God, and we're building. Like,
amen.
It is the perfect place. It is like
Absolutely
the ultimate man cave.
Yep.
That I'm like that there, but my biggest time where that is I'm a drummer behind the drum kit. The rest of the world is gone, and I'm hitting some drums, and so but the shop is a similar thing for me. But yeah, the drums are my ultimate. Like, whenever I'm behind a kid is when I'm in my place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what's cool is you're doing it for the Lord too. It's just,
amen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And also from a communication with God, when I'm in the shop, and if I do something out of my comfort zone, man, it gets me praying more. It's like, okay, God, I don't know how to do this. I'm trying to figure this out. Can you, you start, it kind of instigate conversation. Cause I either speaking of work tunes, I either have a podcast on, and most of the podcasts I listen to are other pastors. And I have a couple woodworking ones, but then, or I got praise music jamming. And because I do that because if I don't, I won't put my hearing protection on. I'm the guy that walks over to the table saw. So I put my hearing protection on and I listen to something, and I just leave it on the whole time I'm in the shop. But this week was a prime example. So I was making this sign that I was telling you about that I made on the CNC. This sign is in our historic district, and there was already a bracket hanging from the building, and it had an 1/8" steel flange hanging down. And so because of the winds, I didn't want it hanging on chains to swing. I wanted it firm mounted, and I didn't like the bracket, so I wanted to recess it into the sign. So I thought I'll just take and route an 1/8" groove. Well, the problem was 1/8" router bits don't come long enough to go down as far as I needed to. And so my initial idea was brilliant. And then I was like, man, I've only got a 1/2" 1/8" bit. And I started looking on Bits and Bits, called my local dealer. The longest one I could find, I think, was 1 inch, and I needed to go 1.5 inches down. I was like, what am I going to do now? Thank God I was painting this sign. I beat my brain up trying to figure out how am I going to do this now when I don't have a router bit that will go deep enough. And because it had to be an 1/8", I needed it to be a firm, snug fit. And then I was like, God, can you show me a way to do this? I've already taken these people's money. I've made the sign. How do I do this? And you know how I did it? Take a wild guess.
Say table saw.
Bingo. So
yeah.
How many?
So what
You just kept going over it?
No. So what I ended up doing is I took, and it ended up being actually slightly more than an 1/8", because I guess the paint and stuff that was on it ended up being about 5/16. So I took it vertically and cut a groove right through the center, and then had to bump it over and cut a little bit more to get the 5/16. Then the sign was 30 inches long, and then this bracket was 26 inches long. And so then I went and I cut shims, glued back in on each end, and then, of course, hand sawed them off and sanded it, painted it. Nobody ever knows. And but it was very simple to do, but because I'd never done it before, my brain made it complicated. And of course, then it's like I had just stop and pray for a while. It's like, God, I can't just back out of this job. I have to do this. There has to be a way to do it. And then all of a sudden I looked at my table saw and it's like, boom.
Yeah.
And 15 minutes later had it done.
Well, I sent you the picture. I made all those frames for my wife. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
I cut those grooves right down long ways up, and that's how I do it. So, and I don't have a router table. So when you started talking about that, I was like, oh, I do that on a table saw.
Yeah. But see, initially, the reason the table saw didn't cross my mind is because I wanted it to be solid on each end. I wanted it to be a groove from a starting point down to a starting point, and it needed to be full depth. And so if you didn't go full depth all the way through, the curvature of the saw and all. And but it was so simple to do, and it came out absolutely perfect. But yeah, man. But I'm like you. That's my sanctuary where I go and pray and worship. And
yeah,
So,
and
Tom, what else?
God does. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's funny how God designed us, right, as men to be those problem solvers, and that's the space where we get to actually exercise that with Him. Come on, that's a combo.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, what do you got going on in the shop? I know you got your CNC rolling and having fun with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing with it. I don't have a job for the CNC, but what I've told myself is And how I started out this week on it is I literally, the very first sign I made, I just took a bunch of scraps, and whatever scraps I had laying on, I made a project to grave. And I was scared to death I was going to break something. So I had the controller in my hand. and the first one, I was like, I'm going to scratch the surface with the bit. That's all I'm going to do. And write a word. I wrote faith on it. And that went successfully. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to go a little more complex. And I just kept expanding and expanding. And so I want to do that same thing because that Vectric software is amazing, dude. Like, it is absolutely phenomenal. And, I'm Vector Graphics, not Vector the software, but, I've been working with plotters and other sound equipment for 25 years. And so now that I've gone through, it's just taking the knowledge I already had and now applying it to a different medium with a different tool. But it is just, I'm mesmerized now, and my brain, the mouse inside of it's going around the hamster wheel and thinking of all the things. So each day I just said, I'm going to make something and keep pushing my skills with it. So I'm excited about what I can do. But the piano desk that I made my daughter, I've got to make the second tier to go on top of it. I should have already done it, but I'm going to get that done this week. And she's absolutely loving that desk, man. It's she's in there using it every day. So get that finished up. And then I've got a bunch of stuff to do out on the farm. So and I do have one wood sign that'll be a combination of, I was going to do the whole thing on the scroll saw before, but now I'm like, well, now that I know the CNC, I think I'm going to do a portion of it on that. But yeah, so that's all I got going on. How about you?
Well, can I ask Tom something really quick?
Yeah.
You're on the fast, right, of social media. How, say you didn't do the fast, and you have all these things planned out. It seems like you have a clear mind of like what to do, the next few days. What would be the difference with you having social media now and planning all that out? Do you feel like you would have mental space to plan that all out? Or I don't even know what the reason of the fast is for, but can you get into that?
Yeah. So there's two reasons I decided to do the fast. Is I felt overwhelmed with everything. So we have a farm here that we're getting going. And then I still have woodworking projects in my house to do. My wife stays home now, and so I'm the sole breadwinner. I've got signs to install, and then projects to do in the shop. And the thing about filming something, as you guys know, it takes everything 10 times longer. Like if I don't film it, dude, I'm so much faster at woodworking. And so that with a combination of, because I initially started Instagram for one reason and one reason only, and that was to meet other people to bring to the podcast, to hear the gospel. That's it. That is the sole purpose, is like, because how would I have met you to have you come on and share your testimony if I was not on Instagram? So that was the initial part. Well, then I hate to say it, the human nature, as you film and post something, you're like, then you start seeing how many views something's getting, or people start giving you compliments on something, and you kind of get veered off of your mission. And so I was just praying about it. And I was like, God, I don't have enough time to do everything that I need to do. And I was out pruning my fruit trees, and he said, you need to prune some stuff out your life for a period. And so I kept praying about it. And it was like, okay, what do I need to prune out? And so, initially it was like, well, if I quit doing Instagram, it's going to die. All the following is my thought. And God's like, I'm more powerful than Instagram. I was like, whew, hey, okay. And so I said, all right, Lord, I'll give it up. And so, and he very clearly, initially I It's like, so I give it up for a month. He's like, no, give it up for 40 days. I was like, okay. And there's a lot of 40s in the Bible, so you know where that comes from. But to just have time, and man, I'm going to tell you what, it's been phenomenal. So I haven't watched a YouTube video other than I take that back. Something went wrong with my refrigerator, and I go to Google to see how to change a part, and it instantly took me to that. I did watch that one, but I have not gone on and watched any woodworking videos or like I normally do. Because I'm going to tell you, like if Keith Johnson puts out a new video, I'm watching it. If there's several people that I follow that I just enjoy watching their amazing skill set. They're better woodworkers, and man, I'll learn stuff from it. But you go watch a Keith Johnson video, that's 30 minutes. Most of his videos are, and I'm going to watch the whole thing because his content is good. But like with Instagram, and I could tell you when I get back on Instagram, I'm going to unfollow a ton of people because when I first got on, somebody followed me. I felt it was courteous to follow back, you know, and then I got to a point where I was like, I would look at their bio, and if they're not telling the world that they love Jesus, I ain't following back. But here's the thing, like, how many people did Jesus hang out with on a daily basis? His disciples, you know. Yeah. He went out and ministered, but he spent time with the 12 or, you know, that smaller group. And same thing at like your 8,000 person church. You can't get to know 8,000 people. You can't write down 8,000 names. None of us can. That's why small groups are so important, where you can actually get to know somebody. And there's some people that listen to this podcast that I've connected with on Instagram that they're buddies for life. Like, I communicate with several guys on a weekly basis, and that's what I want. It's like I came to the realization, it's like you can't get to be friends with 1,000 people. What's the point? Now, there are people that use Instagram that none of us ever know that they follow because they're wanting to learn what you're posting. And that was what, if I post something, I want it to be of value to somebody. And so I am going to be strategic when I go back on there. I'm only going to get on Instagram 3 days a week, and versus getting on there 7 days. And I'm going to unfollow a ton of people and make it it's basically going to be people that listen to this podcast that are brothers or sisters, you know, believers in Jesus and do woodworking, that we are building each other up. And so, but if you start trying to like watch, there's several people that I follow that I really like, that I communicate with, but you start watching their stories and their reels every day, and you kind of want to because you like them, but man, a 30-second reel there, a 30-second story there, and let's just say you got 10 guys, and each one of them posts 3 times a day a story, and you watch it all, man, those minutes add up. And that's the one thing that I have noticed. Like, I've been on this for 20-something days now, 25, 30 days. Man, I'm getting so much done. Like, it's insane how much time you gain back. And not to say there's not value in me watching your story. Because when I was on there, you're one of the guys, you post something, I find it entertaining. But 30 seconds there following you, and then I go watch Nolan's, and then I go watch Will's, and then and all of a sudden it's like, man, I just lost 20 minutes. And it's easy to do. And so that's why my pastor actually fasted the first 40 days of the year. He does it every year. And so I, after praying about it, I was like, okay, God is like, well, if you want me to do this, when I come back, there'll be more followers on there than when I left. And so And if not, then I'm okay without it. I'm willing to give it all up. So, cause that's,
Wow.
so yeah, but I mean, I do miss that. I enjoy the communicating with like-minded people. I really do. But the ultimate goal is communication with him. And if communicating on Instagram with other people is taking away my time of reading the word or my time of prayer or whatever the case might be, being productivity for my business or my family, and that's kind of how I felt like it was. And so I just needed to give it up and for a period of time and focus. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
It's funny what like with the seasons that he brings you through just to draw you closer to him. But that's why I asked. It seemed like that would probably be the reason why. And because when you spoke about all the things that you had planned, I kind of got jealous because I'm like, man, I want to think as clear as that because I got kids, I have my job, I have woodworking, I have ministry, I have all X, Y, and Z, and maybe it's time for me to give something up. It's been a mental battle lately, so I'm encouraged by that.
The funny thing, I've also read several books in this time. I've had extra reading time. But there was a statement in one of the books I was reading, and it says, sometimes we have to give up some good things in order to have some great things. And so, and it goes back to a fruit tree. So if you don't prune a fruit tree, you're going to get fruit. And the first year we were here, we have apricot trees. It must have been 1,000 apricots on each tree. I mean, but they were all teeny tiny. The next year, I started learning about pruning trees, and so I prune them now. Let's say you get 100 fruit, but man, those apricots are twice as big. They're juicier, they're sweeter, they're better. And so you could choose to have that, not prune it, and have a whole bunch of teeny tiny fruit that are just mediocre, or you can prune it and it have some really good fruit. And so our lives are the same way. Sometime, and one of our listeners that I talk with regularly, he had a very similar situation where he was leading a ministry, like Meals on Wheels type thing, where they go out and feed, and he'd been head of it for a long time. And same thing between kids and work and everything else at the church. And he was feeling overwhelmed. And then he prayed and felt like God was saying, it's time for you to step away from this. Is that a good thing? It's a very good thing that he was doing, but so are all the other things. And so it's like Will was talking about him playing drums, and is it a good thing for him to play drums at the church? Yes. Is it a good thing for him to play every single weekend and it start taking away from his family? And so sometimes the things that in our minds we think are good, and they are good, they're not bad, but it can take away from other things being great. And ultimately, the goal is that everything be for him and for his glory and for it to be great.
Yep. We're called to be good stewards of what we have, and if we're overwhelming ourselves, and what are we really doing?
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly right. And as Christians, we often work. And what's God tell you? He tells you to take the Sabbath. I'm going to tell you one of the best books that I recommend everybody needs to read, by Pastor Robert Morrison out of Gateway Church in Texas, called Take the Day Off. And it's talking about even a pastor, like a pastor works on Sunday, so his Sabbath is not going to be Sunday because he's working. He's got to take another day off. But we all need to take a day off, rest, rejuvenate, spend time with the family, do fun stuff versus working all the time.
Yep. You said by Bill?
It's called Take the Day Off by Pastor Robert Morrison. Yeah, it's Morrison. Fantastic book. He wrote he's written 3 books that are in my top 5 favorite books. The number one favorite book, and I think every person needs to read, is called The Blessed Life. And that book is about being a good steward of your finances. It talks about tithing and then generosity. And then his other book is called Beyond Blessed. And that's talking about beyond the tithe, about being generous with our time, with our talents, with our money, and other ways outside of the church. And then Take the Day Off is the third one by him. And then also Craig Rochelle of Life Church. I love his books as well. He's a fantastic author.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Tom was talking about, so I was playing drums every week at church, which means Wednesday night practice every Wednesday, be there early Sunday morning practice. And long story short, for 5 years in my 20s, I was a youth pastor. I went back to school for Bible and theology, was a full-time youth pastor. And my wife knows that I have a hard time saying no. And that when it comes to church, I will give my time as much as needed to help. And so when we were moving back to my home church, we're going to be going to my home church and be involved, she said, promise me that you're not going to over involve yourself. I said, I promise. Well, then I started playing drums every week, and I do communion meditations, I'm teaching, and I'm doing all this stuff. And finally, she just said a couple words to me. She says, you promised me. And so I called our worship pastor that night, and I says, Dan, man, I love you, but I made a promise to my wife. And so there's something to be said about putting your priorities in line. And so one of the things that Tom and I preach on this podcast is that, like, people aren't seeing a lot of Instagram from me. I'm working a lot at my real job, and my family comes first. And so when I come home, I'm on the floor rolling around with the kids, I'm playing. And if I get out to the shop, it's after everybody goes to bed. But lately, my wife and I have been spending time together. And so we'll watch a show, an episode or two after the kids go to bed, and just snuggle on the couch and just spend time together, because we don't get a lot of it. She stays home with the kids. I work a lot. And so, to all those listeners out there, you guys hear Tom and I talk about all the time, but man, prioritize your time. It's the one thing you can't get back, and it's the only investment you can make that is eternal. And so, very much need to prioritize our time. But with that being said, my shop time, I made a few frames for my wife out of some cherry. Other than that, I haven't had too much. I've been using that. I got the Delta Cruiser miter saw, the real smooth.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And
I saw that. A lot of people are getting that one.
Yeah, it's nice, man. I'll tell you what, the shadow line is money. So my old Ryobi had a laser and it was never accurate, but the shadow line casts a shadow down onto the blade, and it shows you exactly where the blade's going to hit. And that's money. In the smoothness of that weird arm thing, it's just like butter. I cut down a bunch of cherry yesterday, and it was just like, I'm like, man, you mean miter saws can be nice? Like, my old Ryobi was like, and you can, like, and this thing's nice and smooth. And so, yeah, other than that, I haven't been doing too much out in the shop. It's been kind of nice, actually. My wife and I have just been relaxing in the evenings and spending time together, and then get up and work and do it all over again. And so it's been fun. But man, we're pushing over an hour and a half here. Chris, where can people find you if they want to come follow you or come see your stuff?
Yeah, Instagram Duncwoods, and then YouTube Duncwoods. I got convinced at Workbench to create a TikTok and blah blah blah. I hate that. I posted 3 videos. Don't even go there. Just Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, very good. Well, if people knew what TikTok is and where the data is going, they wouldn't be on there. So that's coming from an IT security expert.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at that. But man, it's been fun. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing your testimony, and spending some time with us this evening. And until next week, I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.